And a new sponsor this year, Watch Hill Bank. And a special thank you to our year-long sponsors, our gold sponsors, Mercy Health, Brandy Corps, and we really appreciate those folks. And what I would ask is, they support us. If there's any way for you to support them, please do so. Also want to thank the members of the Forest Hills Foundation for Education. Dee mentioned that. And even though you're starting to eat, there are a number of members of the board here of the foundation. Could you stand up just for a moment, please? The members of the Forest Hills Foundation board. Also want to take just a second, I know we've got a couple members of the Board of Education here, Mr. Jim Fruman and Dr. Forrest Heiss. Could you either stand or wave? There we go. Thank you for attending today. Take just a minute and recognize some of our administrators who took the time to be with us today. Mr. Tom Durbin, our interim superintendent, Mr. Mike Broadwater, assistant superintendent, Mr. Mike Overby, principal at Anderson High School, and Mr. David Spencer, principal at Turpin High School. Could you guys stand or wave? There we go. With the football game tonight, this is a busy day for those folks, and so we really appreciate them being here. And before we hear from this year's distinguished alumni, I'd like to take just a minute to recognize some of our past honorees that are here with us today. Mike Brandy, Bob Coughlin, and Christine Meyer. Are you all here? Could you stand or wave? There we go. Out on time, we're going to resume our program. I really enjoyed the opportunity to mingle and meet with people before we began lunch. It was really neat to see so many alumni faculty of Anderson and Turpin. One more group, you don't have to stand up. By the way, please continue eating, because I know some people just received their entrees. But for all the people who are here that are alumni faculty of Turpin or Anderson, could you raise your hand so we can say thank you? It's great to have you here, and we appreciate what you have done in your career for Forest Hills. We mentioned some of our sponsors earlier, but I did want to mention Dr. Steve Fagan just joined us. He is representing Mercy, and they're one of our gold sponsors. He's everywhere. He's also a member of the Forest Hills Foundation board, and so we appreciate everything that Dr. Fagan's and Mercy does for Forest Hills. Now it's time for our 2015 class of distinguished alumni. We're going to start with Cindy Ritchie Livingston, graduate, a 1969 graduate of Anderson High School, and I think we gave her credit for a few extra years in the program. So it was actually 1969, correct? 5 years younger, thank you. Okay, well, nobody would have known. Following her graduation from the University of Indiana, Cindy spent 16 years with Federated Department Stores. She currently resides in Switzerland, and that's the country, not the county, as the president and CEO of Sequel, a Swiss company that distributes Guess watches worldwide. Under her watch, pause for that, the company established Time to Give, a charitable mission to support children's charities. There is more information about Cindy in the program, but this time I'd like to invite Cindy up, and if you could also introduce any family or special friends that you have when you come up. Okay.
I'm keeping that 1974 number, okay? It's hard to pick up 5 years today. Good afternoon, I'm honored to be here today, and I feel pretty sure that my Anderson High School cheerleading squad had something to do with this. They're here at the table. Thank you, girls, and especially for all the support you've given me this past year. I don't necessarily think it's important for me to trace my career. You can read that in my bio. But suffice it to say, I was lucky enough to have 2 great careers. one at Shillito Reichs and Lazarus here in Cincinnati, and then at a startup fashion watch company for the last 26 years. It started in New York City and Connecticut and landed me in Switzerland for the last 8. And I can only tell you that there is nothing better besides a great family and friends than waking up every morning and going to work loving what you do. I was lucky to experience that twice. There's a lot of people I could thank along the way, but I think it mostly stems back in your formative years with how you were brought up by your family and your parents, especially a lot of individuals, of which a lot of them were teachers. They were there for you and they helped formulate your life goals and gave you a taste of a wide range of subjects and skills that helped you achieve all your goals. I grew up in Mount Washington, lived in the same house on Sutton Road, went to kindergarten, elementary, junior high, which you guys all refer to now as the middle school, and high school, all at Anderson. My dad went to high school before me. I'm wearing his 1941 Anderson High School ring that I found this week. My brother followed me on the same path and graduated 4 years after me, and I think there's something to be said for that kind of continuity. You might ask me why I think that's important. And for me, I always ask myself why I can remember the names of every single one of my elementary teachers. Mrs. Clark, Mrs. Chatterton, Mrs. King, Mrs. Moress, Mrs. Ernsberger, Mrs. Vigard, and Jerry Boyle. All my teachers from kindergarten through 6th grade, and they had to be important to me because now sometimes I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Believe me, there were a lot of teachers along the way who had an impact on my life. And today I asked several of them to have lunch with us because I would like to thank them publicly. And today, Jerry Boyle and Ken Furrier, who I just recently learned had a stroke last week, couldn't be here today. But I spoke to both of them, and I'm hoping that Ken is better, and I know that Jerry wanted to be here. So Jerry Boyle, my 6th grade teacher and the first male teacher that I ever had. Every girl in our class had a crush on him. He taught me early on that I would probably always have male power figures in my life, and I better figure out how to work with them and navigate around men when it became necessary, okay? Mr. Posak, who's here, the only math teacher I ever had who made me have a minor interest in numbers. And the last 18 years of my life as a CEO of a company, when all the fun stuff I got to do was over, my job was all about the numbers. So thank you for igniting a small passion for that subject. Marianne Reinfrank, or Miss Hayes in those days, who would have thought your typing and shorthand class would have offered up the skills that I use most today? For the hundreds and thousands of letters, emails, and text messages that I have mastered on everything from a typewriter to a computer to a laptop to an iPad to a BlackBerry to an iPhone. A very big thank you for teaching me how to type all those abbreviations, LOL, OMG, LMAO, WTF, and all those smiley faces. This has saved me hours, and by the way, I can type emails on a BlackBerry in the dark. Ken Furrier, I understand that he was still teaching and, in a charter school. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. He was the advisor of our student council when I was the president in '68 and '69. It was my single proudest achievement in high school, and he was the person who gave me the courage to lead groups of people in the future. There's 2 other faculty members here today who are no longer with us, and I'd also like to thank them. One is Dick West, who is the music director and conductor at the high school, and Sandy Taylor, our cheerleading advisor and a good friend of Marianne's. Here's the deal. In my business, I get interviewed a lot, and people always ask me, how did you get where you are, and what are the skills that you think are the most important in your job? And here's what I always tell them. I'm the orchestra leader of a great team, and my main job is to orchestrate a bunch of different types of people and make them sing together as one group, making all the harmonies come together, which is what Dick West did his whole life. And the second thing was to always be a cheerleader. Probably my single biggest skill, always to encourage excitement whether the team is losing or winning. And I have Sandy Taylor to thank for that. Lastly, and most importantly, my mom. My mom substitute taught in the 50s and early 60s in the Forest Hill School District, and then went back full-time to teach second grade at Wilson Elementary and to put me through college. I can never repay her for giving me that and the courage to chase my dreams, and for always reminding me that anything is possible, even if you're a girl. So I'm dedicating this award to my mom today. For all the teachers that are here today, especially from Anderson, I'd like to thank you for setting the goalpost high and continuing to give students a strong base to grow from. And speaking of goalposts, how many people today are here from Turpin? How many people are here from Anderson? Oh yeah. When I was here, Turpin didn't even exist, okay? And McNick was our big rival. But it looks like that's all changed, and tonight's the big night for a rival football game. And I just want you guys to know that I'll be wearing orange and black, and the AHS high school cheerleading team sitting over here will all be breaking out our pom-poms, so get ready, Turpin.
That was terrific. And by the way, if there's an award for coming the farthest distance, we've got people who've traveled quite a distance today. You win it. Next up is Rick Haynes. He's a 1979 graduate of Turpin High School. Rick earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in education from the University of Dayton. He began his career in education as a social studies teacher and has coached at various schools throughout the greater Cincinnati area. For the past 6 years, Rick has been the assistant principal and head football coach at Lakota East High School. In 2012, Rick was named Greater Miami Conference Coach of the Year. Let's give a warm welcome to Rick Haynes.
Cindy, that was quite a speech. I wish I was not going after you. First of all, I'd like to thank the foundation. I am very honored and humbled to be here. I'd like to congratulate the other members that are also being inducted today. It is a tremendous honor. And you know, as I sat down and I thought about putting thoughts on paper about my experience in Turpin and my 1 year at Anderson, it wasn't hard to do, but then I thought to myself, I don't want to waste time doing that because this was a place that I am still very passionate about. My 4 years at Anderson, my 1 year at Anderson, my 3 years at Turpin were some of the greatest years of my life. And being an educator, I think if you would go and ask teachers why they became teachers, 95% of them would say somebody in education inspired them. And I'm no different. Maybe the only difference is I had 4 years of great teachers and great inspiration. The teachers that I had at Anderson, I had Mr. Wolf for social studies, and I can remember sitting in his class on the edge of my seat, listening to him tell stories. And it was, that was the fastest 45 minutes of the day, sitting there with Mr. Wolf. And that was a great experience. You know, Anderson at that time was not big enough to house all the students, so here I was, a 14-year-old freshman, and didn't have to be at school till 10:30 in the morning. And we got out at 4:30, and then I was the second class to graduate from Turpin. And a lot of the teachers that came to Turpin came from Anderson. And I remember those 3 years were just a very, very special part of my life. And I had great, great teachers. You talk about numbers, I had Mr. Stevens and Miss Boyd, and math was not my thing. But when you walked in their room, you knew two things. They loved what they were doing, and they cared about you. And that was what made that place special. Every time you walked into a room, you knew the teachers cared about you personally, and they wanted you to succeed. They challenged you, and they pushed you, and life was hard, and I know sometimes writing an English paper or writing a paper, I was thinking, that guy doesn't like me very much. But when you look back, and you think about those things, those are the things you remember. Those people cared, and that was such a great part of going to Turpin High School. I had great teachers, I played sports, I had great coaches, and the things that they taught on the athletic field, the things that I learned in the classroom, I will never ever forget. I still use them today in my job. And so I cannot thank the Forest Hills School District enough. I should be up here thanking you, and I'm trying to do that publicly because those years I spent were just tremendous. I'd like to thank my mom and dad. They're here, they're 86 and 88 and still going strong. My mom doesn't know she's 86, so don't tell her. My daughter also, I have 3 great children. My daughter Emily is here. She's a sophomore at the University of Dayton. I have a daughter who's at UC, who's in Arizona right now. And I have a son who's teaching and coaching over at Oak Hills High School. And I'm very proud of all 3 of them. And I'd like also to thank Dr. Fagan publicly. A few years ago, my dad went on an honor flight to Washington, D.C., and it was a great experience for him. He still talks about it, and Dr. Fagan was his chaperone. So he was felt very safe because if something happened to him, he had a doctor right there. Just in closing, I can't tell you how honored I am to be here. I can't tell you how great those years were that I had at Turpin and the year at Anderson. I read a book by Mike Krzyzewski, and one of the quotes he had in there was that people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that, I think, epitomizes my experience in Forest Hills. The people cared, and you knew that when you walked in, and it was just a great, great experience. And I'm very, very thankful for being here. Thank you.
I don't want to appear ungrateful, but I do still coach football, and we have a game tonight. I do have to leave, but I just want to congratulate all the other honorees and thank you again.
Thank you for being here. Rick, I hear that all the time, what a great school district Forest Hills is. So thank you for keeping it up. Our next honoree is a 1981 graduate of Anderson High School. Dan Fleming earned his bachelor's degree in engineering from Ohio State University and his master's from Harvard Business School. Dan's career has spanned various technically oriented positions with companies like Kodak and Procter & Gamble, fine company, followed by a 20-year career in private equity investing. Today, Dan is the managing partner for Cincinnati-based River Cities Capital Funds, one of the most active and experienced growth equity funds in healthcare and information technology. Please help me give a warm welcome to Dan Fleming.
Nothing like reading glasses to make you feel old, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be here again today. I do feel like I am once again representing the rescue of Anderson High School. You know, over the years, I thought from time to time that I should reach out to some of the teachers and coaches who helped me develop during my formative years, and I never really got around to it. And so I'm really glad to have this occasion to give a shout out and to say thank you to several of those folks who were kind enough to join us today, and I'm going to reference them in just a minute. When my family moved to Cincinnati in 1975, I recall my dad saying that he was looking at houses in 2 locations, Montgomery and Anderson, because he had heard both of them had great school systems. I also heard him say that the houses in Montgomery were just too damn expensive. So, we landed in Anderson. But I found out that much more than just a school, Anderson was a fantastic community. We had the support of parents and teachers who were coaches and boosters and mentors. And many of the friendships that I developed from middle school and high school felt like family, and they really still are like family today. And folks like Joe Moon, who I think is responsible for having me up here today, is one of those folks. In high school, I developed a passion for math and sciences. And I discovered that I enjoy analytical stuff. I think part of that appreciation came from having great teachers who kept things interesting. Like Mr. Lutterby, even though he's a little intimidating at times. You know, he had a way to guide you through the dissection of the fetal pigs. Or Mr. Dockery with chemistry experiments where, you know, we learned something evaporates or precipitates. I did a lot of problem solving with Mr. Ellis in math. I don't even know what we called the math back then. Or Mr. Heimbaugh in physics class. At this stage of my life, though, back to the memory issue that was brought up earlier, I don't think I can remember much of anything in terms of formulas and such, but I saw Chester Imhausen out in the lobby earlier today, and Joe Moon and Mark Schmidt and I can sing word for word about 10 songs from 7th grade chorus. And we're not going to make you guys sit through that, but it's kind of weird how that memory works. Anyway, this foundation in math and science led to an analytical focused career, first in engineering and then in finance. My position today is really the job I always dreamed of. We have a venture capital firm based here called River Cities Capital, and we find, evaluate, and invest in many novel, high-potential software companies and medical companies all across the country. We funded breakthroughs in areas like internet security and minimally invasive neurosurgery. You know, we're not quite like the hot shots in New York and Silicon Valley, but we got a pretty good thing going, and most importantly to us, we do it here out of Cincinnati. And while I feel like I'm living the dream, so to speak, I also recognize that I've been blessed with incredible opportunity. My life's been quite different than that of my hardworking immigrant grandparents just a couple of generations ago. This includes the opportunity for education at Anderson and Ohio State and Harvard, and work experience with Kodak and P&G and River Cities. And most importantly, I've been blessed with the opportunity to share my life with my wonderful wife, Susan. And we've had the opportunity to raise two very special girls. But I also recognize that there are many people out there, and I would venture to say most people on the planet have not had access to these kinds of opportunities. Their situation might be generational poverty, unstable families, gang influences, health issues, lack of educational resources. And so I hope to spend more of my time going forward trying to provide a hand up. I spent the past 15 years working with an organization called Cincinnati Works, where we partner with those living in poverty to obtain gainful employment. In order to do that, we have to break down and help them overcome barriers like child care, transportation, legal issues, mental health problems. All these things that stand in the way of their economic stability and their chance for a better life. I've also recently begun to volunteer with City Gospel Mission to mentor young men who are getting out of incarceration and help them prepare for a productive re-entry into the real world. Lastly, I'm spending more time lending my investment skills with the United Way, trying to help evaluate which social programs are most efficient and effective and where novel approaches can be applied to improve lives and enhance our overall community. I try to be mindful of the Bible verse, to whom much is given, much is required. I got a lot of work to do to pay back and to pay forward my good fortune. And so in summary, I recognize that I developed a foundation from the Anderson Township community, the Forest Hills School District, and I really appreciate this recognition today. I applaud the efforts of the foundation to continue providing educational, career preparation, and community building opportunities for the next generation of Anderson and Turpin kids. Thanks a lot for having me.
next honoree is a 1987 graduate of Turpin High School, James Ackley. After high school graduation, James went on to pursue his dream of becoming a professional musician. He earned his bachelor's degree in music from Baldwin Wallace University Conservatory of Music and his master's degree in music from the Cleveland Institute of Music before joining orchestras in Mexico and Colombia. I understand you also did a semester at Juilliard in there somewhere, correct? Okay. After returning to the United States, he has continued to perform with numerous orchestras and chamber groups. He is also a professor at the University of South Carolina, and James is a Yamaha performing artist and clinician. So with that, warm welcome to James Ackley.
Okay, unlike my predecessors, who are using paper, I've joined the 21st century and will be using my laptop. And that's only because I live in South Carolina and we had a monumental flood happen and they shut down all the bridges and I can't get to my office. So my printer was in my office and that was it. I got up here, Mom, can I use your printer? Oh, I'm out of ink. As you heard now, I joined the academic realm, and it's a little different in academia, so bear with me here, because what I wrote is very academic. Good morning. Page 4. To everyone in attendance today, to the award committee, all the nominees and their families, my family and friends, as well as others in attendance, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being present, and thank you for the honor of being chosen as a 2015 Forest Hills Foundation for Education Distinguished Alumni. Say that 10 times fast. Allow me first to say that I arrived last night from Columbia, South Carolina, where we were just hit by a devastating flood over the weekend. My family is doing very well. We missed most of the dangerous areas by about a mile. Many roads that once stood are no longer there. My gym that I visit every morning, I haven't been to in a week because it needs to be rebuilt. And our favorite restaurant has washed away. I'm certain there is a long road ahead for my community as we begin to pick up the pieces and rebuild. And if you had family and friends in South Carolina, I pray that they're safe today. So I was told I have about 5 minutes or less for this speech, or I would be prosecuted at the first extent of the law. So I will try to make this as short as I can. I'll be honest with you, when I was first approached about the prospect of this award, I was a bit shocked. Personally, I don't think I've done enough to deserve such an honor. Or perhaps it's because I think that I still have so much more to accomplish that I feel that, and I missed where I was. Here we go. I feel like that I could actually merit this award. You know, I was recently speaking to a friend of mine, and I told him about this award, and I asked him, hey man, he's Latino, so I say man instead of man. I say, hey man, so what did you think about this, man? And his response was something like this. Hey man, has your high school already run out of decent candidates? So you gotta love your closest friends. But I was also reminded of something a wise man once told me. He said, to you, you're living your life and it may not seem like such a great big deal. But to everyone else looking in, believe me, it is a big deal. Thank you, Dad. Regardless of the answer, an award like this bears great responsibility and respect, and I hope I can live up to that. I was born right here in Cincinnati, grew up around the Cincinnati area my entire life. I traveled from one place to the next, but around Cincinnati. My grandparents' house acted as the family hub. They're no longer with us. They lived in Norwood, in the same house, the only house that I ever knew them living in. My family moved to the Turpin area sometime around 1982. I think the program says 83, but after speaking with my mom and everything, and I think it was 82, we think. And this is after living in the Lakota School District prior to this. I attended the school across the street from Turpin High School. I can't remember the name of it, but that's where I started in 8th grade, and then in 9th grade went to Turpin High School. So high school came soon after that. It was a time of learning, but for me it was also a time of teenage turmoil. It's that time of your life when you begin to figure out who you are, what you want to be. So while at Turpin, I was extremely lucky to have such wonderful teachers guide me, mold me, pique my interests, and more importantly, challenge me. Mr. John Fecker. He was my band director. And I would say that 90% of my music, or interest in music, specifically the trumpet, involved Mr. Fecker. Mr. Fecker was a trumpet player himself. He was very well of how to reach a certain talent level. He was very aware of what a student needed in order to improve. I even took lessons from him privately for a while. Mr. Fecker introduced me to new repertoire, new styles, particularly new performing artists. And because of this, I would seek these artists out and listen to them, learn from them. Mr. Fecker encouraged me to seek out my dreams. I'm sorry if I'm saying Mr. Fecker. John. It seemed weird. It's always Mr. Fecker to me. He encouraged me to seek out my dreams, something that I feel like I have passed on to my former and current students, and if the Lord willing, my future students. In my mind and my heart, Mr. Fecker was one of the best teachers Turpin has ever offered. Mr. Chester Imhausen. I'm not too sure where you are. There you are. Just look for the ball. Mr. Imhausen was my choral teacher. Honestly, there has never been a person in my life, other than my family, or a family member, that was more giving and caring than Mr. Imhausen. Through him, I learned to use my voice. Literally, I sang in his choir. Whether it was in choir or showstoppers or singing solos at his church, Mr. Imhausen was always teaching me my voice. And through that voice, I found a common theme in music that transcended language and understanding. At least how I knew it then, probably how I even know it now. Because of his teaching and guidance in high school, I was ultimately able to fulfill those dreams that Mr. Fecker placed in my heart. Mr. Paul West, who unfortunately can't be here today. He's in Spain. Entonces, salud, Señor West. He's probably having a mojito or something right now. Mr. West was my orchestra teacher. My first encounter with an orchestra was here at Turpin High School under his baton. Mr. West was always challenging me to learn new literature and a new style of playing. And that was in an orchestra, which is completely different than playing in a band. Orchestra is where the balance is the utmost importance. It's where you get the richness of the sonorities, the harmonies, the line, the musical line. It was here that I ultimately found what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I wanted to be a classical trumpet player. As much as Mr. Fecker wanted me to go to New York and play a lead trumpet and jingles and everything in the recording arena, thank God I didn't do that, right? It's all gone. But I found out I wanted to be a classical trumpet player, and I wanted to perform in an orchestra. It was high school orchestra that helped me find that niche, and I feel completed by that very existence. Turpin High School wasn't just about my music teachers, obviously. From, I would say, meager family beginnings, but with the help of top-notch education I received at Turpin, I was able to graduate cum laude from both my bachelor's and master's degrees, which is Baldwin Wallace and Cleveland Institute of Music, respectively. It was the education I received at Turpin that enabled me to transcend every challenge and obstacle that was thrown my way. My teachers at Turpin taught me, as well as my family, that hard work pays off. Not everyone will get a trophy, unlike in today's societal shortcomings. Sorry that I went a little, not PC there. But if you want that, if you truly desire it and work hard for it, the kind of work that requires sacrifice and dedication, you will succeed. I would like to channel the memory of the late great actor Robin Williams, especially his movie, The Dead Poets Society. Because it was my physics teacher at Turpin, Mr. Barry Reilly, who was the first to breathe these words standing on his science desk before Dead Poets Society came out in '89. Carpe diem, seize the day, because tomorrow may never come. Make the best of everything that you have to offer. You never need to look back if you lead your life for the best it has to offer. Choose what you love and love what you choose in life, because you only get one shot. So it was these words that were the final catalyst to my decision of becoming a musician, the person you see before you today. Because of these words, I decided that music was the gift that God bestowed upon me, and that I should try to harness it to my highest potential and share it with others. Indeed, Turpin High School offered me a chance. That chance was all I needed. I didn't take it for granted. I wanted all my former teachers, or I want all my former teachers, to know the part that each of them played was absolutely monumental. You see, even if it looked as though I wasn't paying attention to class, I was. Maybe not to the topic, but could have been Mary Riley over there on the right-hand side. I want to thank them for making me a better person, so thank you. I also want to thank the Forest Hills School District for finding the very best teachers to teach in our school system, and Forest Hills Foundation for such a tremendous honor. Thank you. I want to thank my family for sticking with me while I was, finding my way and not losing faith. Thank you to my wife and my sons, Marisela, Kevin Alejandro, and Joshua Antonio, for their unconditional love and support. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here today. If I knew that we were going to have a flood, I would have booked them tickets here too. And I thought they were going to be in school today. And finally, I want to thank God for His mercy, His grace, and the talent that He blessed me with in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James mentioned the committee that put on the event today. I would just want to say I think you all chose very wisely. You put on a great event, and could I ask for the last group to be recognized, could everybody who's on the Distinguished Alumni Committee please stand up and be recognized? People that put this event on, please stand. Our last recognition is a Forest Hill staff member for our Distinguished Alumni Award, Jerry Gunning. I was tempted to go off script here because there's a lot I could say about Jerry, but I'm going to stick with the script. Jerry Gunning served as an Anderson High School teacher for 4 years and as a Turpin High School counselor for 38 years until he retired in 2014. A member of the American School Counselors Association, Gunning received his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Cincinnati. He is presently working at a charter school in Cincinnati. Please help me give a very warm welcome to Mr. Jerry Gunning.
Good morning. I'm sorry.
You're my friend.
I'm very honored to be here today and grateful to be the recipient of the Distinguished Staff Award. The support given to me by the Forest Hills School District, staff, students, parents, and of course, the Forest Hills Foundation is simply amazing. Without the love and support of my wife, Karen, My children, Jennifer, Carrie, Jenny, Josh, plus 9 grandchildren, my sister, Jane, and my brother, Mike, I would not be here. I'm extremely grateful to many amazing people whose support and friendship are the reasons I enjoyed 44 years at Forest Hills. People such as Peggy Johnson, Dave Spencer, Brad Chamberlain, Tony Himmelgarden, Eric Fry, Dennis Elliott, Charles Woodward, Karen Warren, Gina Hoff, Gail Mundrell, Jody McKinley, and so many more, that if I continue to mention people who are so dear to me, we'd be here for dinner. And I'm not going to do that. It takes teamwork and everyone working together to make a school a happy and enjoyable learning environment. I'm especially drawn to the quote, "Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life." And I did that. Once more, I'm sincerely grateful for this award. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. And thank all of our speakers. Those were all some very powerful presentations. At this time, I'd like to ask the president of the Forest Hills Foundation for Education to come forward, Mr. Forrest Heiss, who is, by the way, a 32-year member of the Board of Education, to come up and present our honorees with their awards. So if all the honorees could please come forward.
While they're coming up, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here. This is a special occasion. I think it reflects our community, our schools. As a graduate of Anderson and 4 kids who went to Turpin, we know how special this place is. And it's just good to reflect and take time and say, hey, how do we get where we are? Why are we here? And just what great benefit did we have as the Forest Hill school system to give us a foundation for our life's work. And I just congratulate all the honorees, our prior honorees that are here tonight, this afternoon. Also, I just want to say, if I was a teacher and I had these kids did turn out pretty good. Sometimes when we were in school, you're like, well, these guys can't amount to anything. What is going on here? But they didn't even surprise themselves sometimes. And that's all based on what they got here, the foundation, both in the school, but especially in their families, because they've all mentioned their parents, their spouses. You don't get here alone. You get here with a whole lot of people, a whole community. And we do have, we've got a good thing going on in this community. And I think these things really help getting this beyond, and hopefully for the kids that are in there now, I would invite anybody here who thinks, hey, I like to do something here for the high schools and the school district. Talk to one of the board members, or just, we'd like to invite you. We need people on the board, we need people on our teams to help us keep moving forward. You're inundated by your colleges asking you for money, asking for support, but most of us have got where we are from what we got in the Forest Hill school system through those teachers. And if you'd like to give back, we'd love to have you. So just take that as open. Now I'm going to ask for the helping in doing what we're doing. Cindy, come up first. Cindy graduated in '69. I graduated in '62. Just think where she came from. In '69, she became a businesswoman. Beyond that, that wasn't, I don't know, they were still playing, I guess, 6-woman basketball where you only have court sometimes. They were probably in. So things have come a long way, and that was quite an accomplishment. And what a great speech.
Thank you. Thanks, Forrest.
We have honored these graduates who went on to success in business, in education, and also the arts. very proud of you. And we even went way back when the music department, the arts department of the Forest Hills School District is unsurpassed. It's always been great, and it continues to be that way. Dan, I'm sure we'll get a picture in there somewhere. But Dan, great, appreciate you coming back, and really proud of your accomplishments. Thank you. Why isn't Martha? Martha, you come up.
No, I'm thinking.
No, come up there. But excepting him for his son, Rick, he was a heck of an athlete. I mean, that's all I remember. Yeah, he was, you know, you're a hot stuff at one time, and then it turns out that he's also paying back by being a head coach and giving the same experience that his employees. And congratulations. I know you're very proud of him.
Thank you.
I'm not used to this, Jerry. Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your wife said you'd never get through this. She was almost right. I said, this is just like, you know, how many times you've been, how many assemblies over these 44 years have you been in front of? I said, this should be like falling out of bed. Well-deserved honor. Again, only those who have worked with Jerry. How many people, you know, over 5,000 graduates during your period of time? A lot of people. He cared for people. I know when our kids were going through, he'd write these great letters to these colleges, and I said, wait, this is my kid he's talking about? What's going on? It's just a lot of time going on. It's just great. We appreciate it very much. I'm going to turn this back to Randy. Randy did a super job. If you don't know, he is an announcer for the UC Bearcat Band. He goes over the United States announcing them. So those mellow tones that you hear are just second nature to him. So, again, thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here today. Want to let everybody know that our honorees will be introduced at halftime at the Anderson-Turpin game this evening. We talked about the Alumni Associations. If there's anybody here who has passion for helping to really get our Anderson Alumni Association and Turpin Alumni Association energized and off the ground, talk to Dee, talk to me, talk to anybody on the board, the foundation board. We'd be glad to have your help in making that thing really take off. So with that, again, I want to thank Dee for all of her work on the foundation and putting this together, the committee. The committee that chose wisely, and I especially want to thank all of our honorees for taking the time to travel here today and be with us. So again, thank you, and tonight, may the best team win.